It's the 19th of June, the 19th of Pride Month, and I haven't filmed just your classic Pride Month book recommendations video yet, so we're gonna fix that today. Like, what am I up to? Seriously, queer books, sapphic books, that is my bread and butter on this channel. Hi, I'm Georgia, I talk about gay books on the internet, it's kind of my entire thing. If you like the sound of that, then make sure you subscribe to this channel because there is a lot more where this comes from. Anyway, here are a selection of queer books, LGBTQ plus books, that you may not have heard of that I am recommending to you today. They're not like the most rogue queer books in the whole world, like you probably have heard of some of these before, but I'm just trying to talk about books that I don't talk about in every single video. I'm trying. The first book I'm recommending today is Hijab Butch Blues by Lamia H. I read this book on holiday when I was in Florida last month, and I don't really know what I was expecting from this book, but I absolutely loved it. I actually read this whilst I was sunbathing in 36-degree heat, and the pages melted. So this book is literally, it does that now. So that's really good. Melty glue issues aside, I cannot recommend this book enough. This is Lamia's story. It's her memoir about what it is, what it means to be a lesbian Muslim woman. She grew up in a non-specified country in the Middle East. The sort of facts, the specifics in this case are kept very, very vague because Lamia clearly doesn't want to be identified through this. But she grew up in the Middle East as an immigrant. Again, it never says what her home country is, but it talks a lot about her experiences having darker skin in this Middle Eastern country and how she is treated because of that. In this book, she very much focuses on the intersection between her religion, so Islam, and her sexuality, which is a lesbian. And those are two things that you might not think really go hand in hand, and Lamia herself will admit that those two things don't always go hand in hand. But whereas a lot of queer Muslims will maybe walk away from their religion, Lamia has found ways to make it work for her. Her understanding of Islam, of the Quran, is that she is accepted and she is loved. And I just found this such a refreshing look at religion and sexuality, and I'm sure there are a lot of Muslims who might read this and entirely disagree with everything Lamia says. But that's the thing about religion, it is so intensely personal. I personally don't know loads about Islam beyond the very basics, so I feel like I really learnt so much in this book. So each chapter, each section in this book starts with Lamia telling you a surah from the Quran in very easy to understand, easy to digest terms, and then she relates that to her own life and the sort of lessons that she has taken from that certain passage. I learnt so many things. One of the things I was most surprised at in this book is the intersections between Islam and Christianity. Like, I obviously knew they're both Abrahamic religions. I knew there was a lot of crossover, but I don't think I realised quite how much. That was a very interesting surprise, actually. Although Lamia grew up in the Middle East, she does move to New York City when I think she was 17, and she continues her studies there. It talks about her struggles with visas, with being an immigrant in the United States, with being a queer Muslim immigrant in the United States. It talks a lot about family and how she has to lie a lot about who she is. She has to lie when she takes her partner to her family's house and just say that her partner's a friend. It really talks a lot about how she sort of like grapples with all these different areas of her life, all these different plates that she's just keeping spinning constantly, and how she doesn't want to lose any part of her life because of who she is. Honestly, I just really, really enjoyed this. I don't think this is a book to be devoured. I think this is a book to be read sort of like one chapter at a time. You read it, you put it down, you ponder on it, and then a couple of days later you can go back and pick up more. I just found it very heavy. There was a lot to understand in this book, and honestly, I just really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was something so different. I've never read anything like this before, and I'd be so intrigued to read more books from this perspective. And if Lamia H ever writes anything again, I am there. I am so there. And in a complete 180, the complete other side of the gay coin, we have Bloomtown by Ali North. Did you really think I was going to make a video recommending Pride Month books and not talk about Bloomtown? Of course not. I adored these books so much. These are maybe two of my new favourite books of all time, like genuinely. So this is a duology. It's Bloomtown Genesis and Bloomtown Exodus, and it follows the story of a girl called Abby, and she is a preacher's daughter in, I'm pretty sure this is set in the 1880s, if not it's somewhere around that time. Abby comes from a very small town which is essentially just this religious community. Her father is the head preacher. Everything in the town is kind of built around this church. She has never known anything else. But what she has known is that she's never quite fitted in. She's always known that she's a bit different. And when she was caught one day kissing another woman, her entire life kind of tumbles down around her and she ends up married to a clergyman. Clergyman? Clergyman. Clergyman. Anyway, this man, he's called Silas, he's very religious, he works very closely with Abby's father, and this is the 1800s, this is deep in the time of manifest destiny, which is basically this idea in the United States at the time where white Christians believed that it was their destiny to basically take over the land, take over the entirety of the US. They believed it was their destiny to kill all the Native Americans and take over the land, and that now belonged to them. That is obviously in layman's terms, but it was essentially that. And they believed that it was their God-given right to do so, and so they did. Silas goes out west, he starts to build this town called Promise, and Abby one day is on a train on her way to Promise to join her husband in this new life, only she never makes it because she gets kidnapped off the train by two children and who she assumes to be their dad. And when Abby comes around, she's chloroformed on this train, she comes around a couple of hours later, she is with this woman called Joey. Joey is this hot female outlaw who I am just so obsessed with in every way. She's tattooed, she's got this long, dark, curly hair, she's got a bit of an attitude. Like, honestly, Joey, just take me. It pains me that this is not a real woman because she might be my dream woman. And I'm not saying it's a coincidence that my wife is also tattooed with dark, curly hair. It's just my type. Joey is my type. And listen, I'm not usually a fan of kidnap romances. It's not really my kind of thing. I like my romances where everyone is fully consenting from the get-go. But in the context of this book, and I don't want to really spoil the context because you need to read it to find out, but it just works. Abby is taken to this like small town where Joey and the two kids and the other man who's called Lewis, he's Joey's best friend, all live. It's this tiny beautiful town called Rye with these like rope bridges leading from building to building and all these beautiful fairy lights and little jars hanging from the bridges. It's just so vivid. I see it in my brain when I close my eyes. Abby goes there and she is held captive, but she's not really a captive because the children are very insistent that they want her to just like join in with everyday life. She thinks she's there for 2 weeks while she waits for her husband to pay a fee to get her free, a ransom. And in that time, she very much falls in love with Joey and with the children and with Lewis. She just falls in love with his entire lifestyle. And in doing so, she realises that the world is so much bigger than just being a preacher's daughter from a small town in, I'm sure it's Iowa, might be wrong, can't really remember. The lives of Joey and the children are really deeply intertwined with the local Native Americans, and through them, Abby sort of realises that the way that her people treat Native Americans is just absolutely awful. She sort of begins to unpick everything she's been taught throughout her life. And I just feel like the way Addie North handles this in her writing is just so masterfully done. It is so beautiful the way we slowly see Abby unlearn everything that she has spent her entire life learning. And you also see her slowly fall in love with Joey. And I love these books so much. The first one ends on such a cliffhanger. It is so good that I immediately went and downloaded the second one to also read that. I just cannot recommend these books enough, you guys. I love them so much. I wish it wasn't duology. I wish it was a trilogy, a 4-bookology, I don't know what it's called, 5, 6 books even. I would read them all. I love these books so deeply in my soul. It's a sapphic Western romance. Am I usually into Western romances? No. Am I into Bloomtown? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Next up, let's talk about Variations by Juliet Jacks. You know, sometimes you read a book and you finish it and you're kind of like, that was fine. It wasn't anything special, like, whatever. Didn't hate it, didn't love it, cool. And then you can't stop thinking about it. Because that is this book. I read this book for a video that I filmed last year, I think. I think it was... Oh, it was a website recommends me books or something, like a professional book recommender recommends me books. I'll link down below. They recommended me this book and I read it and I was kind of like, yeah, it's fine. I haven't stopped thinking about it. This is a short story collection which is entirely fictional. but also kind of not fictional. It says in the blurb here, using fiction inspired by found material and real life events, Jax explores the history of transgender Britain with lyrical, acerbic wit. So basically, in this book, you travel through history from like late 1800s and explore all the different stories of trans people in Britain throughout the years. So the stories themselves are entirely fictional, but Jax has been inspired by real life history that she's found, essentially. And as in any short story collection, some of these stories are really, really good. Some of them are not so much. There were some stories I really found myself just like zooming through, just like, I don't really care about this, I just want to get to the end, get to the next one. Others that have really, really stuck with me. And these stories are told through so many different mediums as well. Like, I love epistolary kind of writing, is that what it's called? I know epistolary sort of refers to letters, but like a modern epistolary is told through emails, some of them, or through like scripts, like playwright scripts. Some of them are told through newspaper articles. It just kept it really fresh, really interesting, and yeah, like I said, I have not stopped thinking about this since. I'm trying to think of like a specific story that I want to tell you about, but because they're short stories, I feel like I can't really sum any up without giving away the entire story, because they're like only pages long, if that makes sense. But I really highly recommend this. It looks at what it's like to be trans in Britain through every different possible lens imaginable, and I think now more than ever it's really, really important that these kinds of stories are told and they're listened to as well. I just, yeah, loved it. Weirdly didn't love it at the time, but in hindsight it's just really, really stuck with me. Next up, I want to talk about A Trans Man Walks into a Gay Bar by Harry Nichols. This is a non-fiction memoir about Harry's story, about what it is to be a gay trans man in Britain today. As Harry grew up, he knew that he was different, he knew that he didn't really fit in anywhere, and he could never really put his finger on why. As a teenager, he was told repeatedly that he was a lesbian, and so that is the label that he took on for himself for many, many years. He was in a long-term relationship with a woman and slowly came to realise that that actually isn't how he felt comfortable at all. He slowly comes to the realisation that he is a trans man, and not only is he a trans man, he's also not attracted to women. He is gay. It's really interesting because he speaks a lot about how he was bullied for being a lesbian all throughout school, but knew that he actually didn't feel that way about women. He always knew that he did fancy men, but because he was so masculine, he was so butch by like the standards of his bullies at school, and he just sort of internalized that and took that on as his own, because although he knew he was different, he didn't have the words, the understanding to explain how or why he was different. And then once Harry transitioned and came to the realization that he was actually a gay man, it talks about his breakup from his relationship, and he speaks so lovingly, so wonderfully about his ex-girlfriend and the pure strength that it must have taken to get through that situation, because they were together for a long time, considering he was so young at the time. And then it talks about his move to London and exploring London's gay and trans scene. And as somebody who also spends a lot of time exploring London's queer scene, I love books that are about London, about the queer scene in London, because I see it. I see the places, I know what they're talking about, I know what that scene is like, and so I always have like a little extra something for those stories. And whilst Harry does talk about some of the strife, some of the struggles of being a gay man, he also doesn't steer clear of talking about the joy, the euphoria that can come along with finding your true self as well, and I really, really like that. Did I kind of wish, sorry my phone's going off, did I kind of wish at some points that he would sort of delve a bit deeper into some of those emotions and explore that a little bit more? Yes. Was that a deal breaker for me in the book? No, not at all. I listened to the audiobook and I really, really liked how it was told. I just really recommend it. 10 out of 10. 8 out of 10, maybe. Chlorine by Jade Song. This is a book that I downloaded onto my Kindle because I think it was part of like that month's 99p Kindle deals. Not really thinking much of it, I just knew it was sapphic and I was like, I'll download it just in case one day I want something to read. I probably won't like it that much because I'm not a big fan of like, is it even magical realism? It's just like a bit strange. The book's just a bit strange. It's like set in reality but also not set in reality. I'm sure there is a name for that. That name is escaping me right now, but I downloaded it thinking like, probably won't be all that bothered about it. Anyway, one day I'm waiting to give blood, because I give blood every 4 months. Sign up to give blood, guys. I was waiting and I finished my book and I was like, oh, what else have I got on my Kindle? And I saw I had this and I was like, okay, let's give this a go. Guys, when I tell you, I was hooked from the get-go. I was so fascinated by this story, even though it is not the kind of thing I would usually enjoy. And honestly, I feel like reading Chlorine and how much I enjoyed it sort of gave me the push to like look outside of my usual genres, because I never usually would have picked this one up. This is the story of a girl called Ren. Her family are immigrants from China. Her dad actually went back to China to work, if I remember correctly, and she is a very, very keen swimmer. She's been a swimmer for as long as she can remember. And as she comes into her teenage years, swimming kind of becomes her entire life. She has these goals to get to the college that she wants to get to on a swimming scholarship. And so that basically becomes like her one-track mind. She is going to get this scholarship. And she's part of a swimming team with her school. And on that team, she meets a girl that she kind of starts to get a crush for, but it's a little bit strange because this other girl very clearly has a crush on her. But Ren, all she cares about is swimming. So while she makes this friend and she clearly likes her a lot, nothing else comes close to her love for swimming, for the water. And as you go through the book, you sort of see Ren begin to maybe grapple a bit with her sexuality. You see her begin to grapple with what it means to be an immigrant. You see her begin to grapple with the fact that the only way she's going to be able to go to college is on this scholarship. But those all they're quite big things for a teenage girl to be worrying about. But again, nothing is as important as her getting in that water every single day. And throughout the book, you slowly see as Jade begins to become a mermaid. She quite literally becomes a mermaid, but it's really fascinating to read because as the reader, you don't know if Jade has some sort of mental illness, if this is all in her head, or if she is genuinely 100% becoming a mermaid. It's never explained. You never hear any explanation as to what's going on. You just see what's happening, like unraveling on the pages in front of you. And I finished this book like, I was like, I really enjoyed that, but If you like your books with a bit of kook, a bit of quirk, Chlorine is a really, really good one. Okay, 2 more to go. Next up, we're going to talk about Rosewater by Liv Little. Again, I think this is a book because it is about queer culture in London, and again, I love queer culture in London. This is the story of Elsie. She is 28 years old, and she is just completely lost in life. Again, I feel like I really relate to the feeling of being in your late 20s. I'm now in my early 30s, I'm 31, help me. And just not really knowing what you're doing. I think that is such a common thing for people to feel at this stage in their life because everyone is at such different stages. I've got friends who are married. I'm married. What the hell? I'm married. But I've got friends who have got kids. I've got friends who are on their second kid. I've got friends who aren't in relationships and are just focusing solely on their careers. Like everyone is in such different places that your late 20s can start to feel like a really, really lonely time. And Elsie is in the midst of that. This book opens with her being evicted from her flat. She's already going through a tough time. This just makes it tougher. And so she ends up reconnecting with her old best friend, Juliet. And her and Juliet fell out for reasons that you find out about later in the book. And so this forces them to reconnect. Elsie has to move in, and in doing so, she has to face a lot of the things in her life which she's kind of been avoiding. Elsie is a really, really talented writer, but she kind of lacks the motivation, the want to actually do anything about it. Like her only goal in life is to be a writer, but she doesn't have the get up and go to make it happen for herself. She works in a bar, in sort of a dive bar in South London that is very slowly going down, and she knows that she probably hasn't got long left in that job, but she doesn't want to get another one. She has a very, very strained, very complicated relationship with her family. She doesn't really see them, but she also is very, very close with her grandma, so she has to travel back and see her grandma and look after her, and she's got all these like pressures, all these demands on her, and she doesn't know what she's doing. This is a book about queerness. Elsie herself is gay, but that's definitely not the central theme of this book. It's a big part of who Elsie is as a character, but this isn't really a book about queerness or about coming out. It's just who she is. So if that's the kind of book you're looking for, this is a really, really good one. Also, the poetry in this book is just beyond gorgeous. I think I said Elsie was a writer. She's actually a poet. Like, very specifically, she's a poet. And the poems in this are just outstanding. I would read them to you, but I feel like you need to experience them for yourself in this book for the first time. This book is written by Liv Little, but the poems are not written by Liv herself. but I can't remember who they are written by. I don't know, but the poems in this are truly, truly outstanding. They are so good, and yeah, I cannot recommend this book enough if you just want something that's really raw, really true, which isn't maybe the easiest read of your entire life, but something that's going to hit you right in the heart. I do recommend this one. If you're in your late 20s just feeling completely lost, Rosewater could really speak to you. And the final book I want to talk to you about is Disco Witches of Fire Island by Blair Fell. This was released, I think, in May, but I actually read an arc of this all the way back at the beginning of the year. And again, this was one of those books that when I read it at the time, I was kind of a bit like, meh, it was okay. Like, I did enjoy it, but it wasn't like groundbreaking for me. But I think about it all the time. I think when you first read the blurb of this one or you first hear about it, it's very easy to maybe dismiss it as just a silly little book about a group of gay men who believe they are witches who have powers through disco, through dance. And it's quite easy to dismiss it off that because it does sound at base level quite silly, quite frivolous. But it is about so much more than that. This one is very much magical realism, so if you like a bit of magical realism, you will probably really like this. But it's like only a sprinkling. You do spend most of this book like not really knowing if you believe these gay men are actually witches or not. Like, coming from my own personal point of view, I'm very much a skeptic. I don't really believe in witchcraft, anything like that in real life generally. I sort of read this book kind of a bit like quizzical, a bit like wondering what the hell's going on. But I have a feeling if you do believe in that stuff, you might view it from a completely different angle than I did, because I was kind of like, are they witches? Are they not? Am I supposed to believe they're witches? Am I supposed to not? Like, I didn't really know what to think, but it really has stuck with me. But the gay disco witches aren't even at the heart of this story. At the heart of this story is a boy called Joe. He's in his 20s. I think he's 28 years old again, like Elsie in the last one. And he has lost the love of his life to AIDS. He went through a really, really traumatic time with it. It is the 1980s. It is the height of the AIDS crisis. And he one day meets a man called Ronnie. They have a one-night stand, realise they're not made to be lovers, and they very quickly become best friends. And Ronnie decides, he's a bit of a grifter, he decides one day that they are going to go to Fire Island for the summer, which is basically a very gay island, and they're going to work, and they're going to find themselves husbands, rich husbands, and that is what they're going to do. So Ronnie says, don't worry, I've got it all sorted, we've got these amazing jobs, and then he goes up ahead of Joe. Joe turns up and realises there are no jobs. Like, they've got nothing going for them on this island whatsoever, and so Joe ends up sleeping in the attic of these two very quirky, kooky gay men. They're called Howie and Lenny, and Joe quickly starts to hear from other people on the island that Howie and Lenny are a little bit weird, that they think they're witches, that they think they're magic, but also that they might be killers. And so Joe spends a lot of his time very confused about these seemingly lovely men that he's staying with, who are undeniably very weird, but also seem very, very nice. And he starts to think they're hiding a secret, and this book is Joe basically discovering how to love again. Which sounds crazy when you think about everything else I've just told you that this book is, but that is the heart of it. Joe finding love again, learning that although he has been through unimaginable pain, there's always more love out there, whether that's in the form of two quirky, kooky gay witches that live downstairs, or his slightly frustrating best friend, or anybody else. This is a book about connection, about queer chosen family, and I really, really liked it. I really enjoyed it. So there you go. There are 6, 7 maybe, a number of gay books, LGBTQ plus books that you might not have heard of, but you should definitely read. I'll leave all the books linked down below if you want to go and check them out. I would highly recommend. All of these are really, really worth reading. And if there are any other queer book recommendations that you think I'll enjoy based on these recommendations, then let me know in the comments down below. Just leave a comment generally. It's very, very good for engagement purposes, for telling YouTube that you like these videos and that maybe I should make more of them, and maybe they should show these videos to other people. Always very helpful. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.